Welcome to Sleepy Biology, where science doesn't rush, it whispers, where the universe inside your body unfolds, not as a textbook, but as a soft dream of motion, rhythm, and light. Close your eyes if you wish. Let your breath slow down, because tonight we are not going far. We are going inward, not to the stars, but into something far smaller and far more mysterious, the human cell. Each cell is a quiet universe of its own, a self-contained city of billions of molecules working in silent harmony, day and night, without ever asking for thanks. Your story, your entire being, begins and ends inside these tiny shimmering worlds. So let's drift there now, together. Let's step across the boundary of scale and fall into the ocean of life that lives within you, beneath your skin, beyond the warmth you feel when you place a hand upon your chest, lies a landscape unseen. It is not empty. It hums with quiet electricity. Your heart beats, yes, but the real pulse, the true pulse of life, is happening much deeper, on a scale too small for the naked eye. Imagine shrinking smaller and smaller until your eyelashes rise above you like forests, until dust motes become planets. Keep going, past the fibers of muscle, past the twisting highways of nerves, past the shimmering membranes of tissue, until you reach the microscopic shore where the cells begin. You are now standing on the edge of life's smallest kingdom. It is a place without sound, yet full of movement, without language, yet full of meaning. Here everything is alive, not because it beats, but because it becomes. Each cell is both ancient and new. It carries wisdom written billions of years ago, but renews itself every moment. And as you drift closer, you realize something. This world beneath your skin is not a collection of parts. It is you. Each heartbeat sends oxygen, a silent courier, carrying breath to trillions of microscopic citizens. They live in your bones, your lungs, your brain. Each cell has a duty, but also a dream, to continue the lineage of life that began long before humans existed. The cell doesn't know your name. It doesn't need to. It only knows its rhythm. Divide, grow, heal, and serve. And if you listen quietly enough, you can almost feel it. The steady pulse of microscopic faith that keeps you alive while you sleep. Let us move closer. The surface of the cell glows softly, a living boundary, shimmering like dew under moonlight. It is both a gate and a guardian, the cell membrane. But before we cross it, pause here, in reverence. For this thin, invisible wall is one of the most miraculous things in existence. It separates chaos from order, the outer world from the inner self. It decides what may enter and what must stay out. It listens, it communicates, it protects.
A cell without its membrane is like a dream without a sleeper. It cannot exist. As we approach closer, the texture looks fluid, not solid. It waves gently, like oil on water. You drift forward, and the membrane parts around you with graceful permission. You step through, and the world changes. Inside the cell, time feels slower. Light is diffused, filtered through oceans of liquid crystal. It's warm here, not with fire, but with constant motion. Molecules drift like stars in slow motion. Tiny structures float past, some spherical, some long and folded like ribbons. There is no stillness here, but there is peace. You are inside a human cell. The air, or what feels like air, is thick, filled with ions and proteins, currents and flows of invisible signals. Here, gravity means little. Everything moves because it must, guided not by choice, but by chemistry, by energy, by the endless conversation of matter becoming life. In this small space, a space smaller than a speck of dust, entire civilizations are being built and dismantled every second. The cell is not a machine. It is a poem written in motion. The nucleus, that glowing orb at the center, calls softly in the distance. But before we reach it, let's look around. All around you, tiny bubbles of structure drift in the cytoplasm, the cell's inner sea. They look random, but they are not. Each has a role, a purpose born from billions of years of trial and adaptation. You are surrounded by life at its purest form, not grand, but perfectly balanced.
Inside every cell is an ocean that never rests. This is the cytoplasm, a clear, shimmering fluid that fills the cell's interior and holds every organelle in its embrace. It is water, mostly, but not just water. It is structured, alive with ions, proteins, and enzymes, each molecule knowing exactly where to go. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it hum. Imagine a sea so fine that each wave is made not of water, but of invisible vibrations of energy. This sea carries messages, tiny signals drifting from one end of the cell to another, telling mitochondria when to burn fuel, telling the nucleus when to awaken genes, telling the outer membrane what to welcome and what to keep away. It is the bloodstream of a single cell, a river that touches everything. The cytoplasm looks like a dream, soft, slow, unhurried, but within it, every molecule moves with intention. This is how life breathes, not through lungs, but through movement, a dance of particles guided by invisible rules. Drifting through the cytoplasm, you notice filaments, thin lines crossing the cell like roads. They shimmer, bend, and rebuild themselves constantly. This is the cytoskeleton. It gives shape, stability, and grace. Unlike bones, it never rests. It forms and reforms to move parts where they must go, to divide, to carry, to protect. If the cell is a city, the cytoskeleton is its scaffolding, its invisible hand of motion. Tiny motors, proteins with arms and legs, walk along these filaments, carrying vesicles of cargo. They look almost human, small beings with purpose, marching tirelessly through the fog. Everything is in motion. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. In the quiet glow of this inner ocean, you realize something profound.
Life does not begin at grand scales. It begins here, in invisible, endless flow. And that flow, that humble dance of molecules, is happening inside you right now. As you breathe, millions of your cells are exchanging ions, moving nutrients, healing tiny tears, creating energy. It happens while you read, while you dream, while you sleep. The cell never stops. It is the heartbeat beneath your heartbeat, the silent rhythm that never fades. Imagine a city that has no guards, no walls, no gates. How long could it survive? Life learned that lesson early, so every cell, no matter how simple or divine, built itself a border. This border is not stone or steel, it is alive, a living skin called the cell membrane. At first glance, it seems like a thin, fragile veil. Yet within that softness lies intelligence older than any mind. The membrane is made of phospholipids, tiny molecules with heads that love water and tails that fear it. They arrange themselves like dancers, head to head, tail to tail, forming a shimmering double layer, a barrier that breathes. It is both flexible and firm, allowing the cell to move, to bend, to reshape itself, yet always knowing where the world ends and where the self begins.
When you touch your chest and feel your pulse, remember, beneath your hand are billions of these membranes, vibrating, sensing, deciding. They do not merely block or allow, they listen. Tiny proteins float in this sea like gates and messengers, opening paths for ions to pass, welcoming glucose, releasing waste. Each movement is a decision. Each exchange, a quiet act of trust. Even the act of breathing, the oxygen entering your lungs, is incomplete until it crosses this invisible border and slips through the membrane of your cells. There, oxygen is accepted like a sacred offering. It is carried inside to feed the fires of energy. The cell membrane is not just a wall. It is consciousness in molecular form. It knows what belongs and what does not. Perhaps we too could learn from it to open wisely and to close gently. Sometimes a signal comes from the outside world, a hormone, a neurotransmitter, a whisper of change. The membrane listens first. Its surface is covered with receptors, each one a lock waiting for its key. When the right key comes, the cell awakens, responding instantly. This is how your body feels joy, how it senses danger, how it begins to heal. All from the wisdom of a wall that feels. Let us drift deeper now, toward the glow that flickers in the cytoplasmic sea. Like lanterns floating in the dark, they shimmer softly. Tiny ovals of light. These are the mitochondria. If the cell were a city, they would be its power plants. If the cell were a soul, they would be its eternal fire. Every breath you take, every heartbeat, every whisper of movement depends on these glowing engines. Each mitochondrion carries its own story, its own DNA, a faint memory of a time long ago when it was not part of us at all. Once upon a time,
Billions of years ago, a larger cell engulfed a smaller one. But instead of being digested, the smaller cell offered a deal. It said, "I will give you energy if you give me a home." And they never parted. That ancient partnership still burns inside you, in every muscle, every neuron, every heartbeat. The mitochondrion converts the food you eat and the air you breathe into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the universal energy coin of life. When you blink, when you dream, when your heart sighs between beats, it is ATP that fuels it all. Within the mitochondrion, tiny enzymes work like quiet priests of fire, passing electrons from one to another through the electron transport chain. Each step releases a spark of energy, each spark captured and woven into the sacred molecule of ATP. To your eyes, it would look like lightning slowed to a heartbeat. And yet it never stops. Even while you sleep, these fires burn on, faithful and tireless. The warmth you feel in your own skin is the sum of their devotion. Without them, the body would be silent, not in peace, but in absence. There is something humbling about mitochondria. They remind us that life is built on partnership, not domination. 1 billion years of cooperation turned two strangers into one being. You. So next time you breathe deeply, remember, the air you take in is a gift to the tiny fires within you, and they return the favor by keeping you alive. Now, let us drift toward the center, to where the deepest mystery rests. Through the shimmering cytoplasmic sea, you see a sphere of calm light, like the moon rising through mist. This is the nucleus, the command center, the library, the keeper of your story. Every human cell, except for a few like red blood cells, carries the sacred chamber. Inside, folded more tightly than any poem, lies your DNA. If you were to stretch out the DNA from one cell, it would be almost 2 meters long, yet it fits within a space invisible to the naked eye. It coils and folds with elegance beyond comprehension, like a universe compressed into a whisper. DNA is written in 4 simple letters: A, T, C, and G. Adenine, thymine, cytosine, guanine, the alphabet of existence. Every cell reads this script differently, like musicians interpreting the same sheet of music. In one cell, the song becomes skin. In another, it becomes heart. In another, the melody turns to thought. You are not one being. You are a choir of interpretations, singing the same eternal score. The nucleus is wrapped in its own membrane, a double envelope, pierced with tiny pores that act as guarded gates. From these gates, messengers constantly leave, carrying blueprints, mRNA, that tell the rest of the cell what proteins to build. This is transcription, the sacred act of copying life's words into action. Outside, the ribosomes wait, ready to read these messages and turn them into matter, into enzymes, muscles, memories. Inside the nucleus, silence reigns, but it is the silence of a scribe at work, writing the code of being. Sometimes you may feel lost, unsure of who you are or why you exist. But within every cell of your body, the answer has already been written. Not in language, but in structure, in code, in the rhythm of bases binding and unbinding in the darkness. You are the sum of these silent scripts. You are not separate from them. You are their voice made visible. All around you now, in the shimmering sea of the cytoplasm, you begin to notice tiny dots, countless, glittering, like stars scattered across a soft sky. They are small, yet endlessly busy. These are the ribosomes, the builders of life. Each ribosome is an artist, and its art is creation itself. They do not sculpt stone, nor paint on canvas. Their brush is a molecule. Their canvas, the flow of time. From the nucleus, the messenger RNA, the mRNA, drifts outward like a scroll of sacred instruction. Each ribosome catches it, unfolds it, and begins to read. Letter by letter, codon by codon, the message is translated into chains of amino acids, tiny building blocks that will fold into proteins. And those proteins, they are everything. They are your skin, your hair, your heart's enzymes, your mind's receptors, your very memory. Each one begins here as a whisper of information turned into matter. The ribosome moves along the mRNA like a calm reader turning pages. Each pause, each connection forms another bond, and slowly the chain grows. This is translation, where thought becomes thing, where design becomes being. Once finished, the new protein folds into shape, its form chosen not by chance, but by the physics of life itself. A perfect curl, a spiral, a sheet. It folds not because it must, but because that's what beauty does. It finds order in chaos. Some ribosomes float freely, building proteins that stay within the cell. Others attach themselves to the endoplasmic reticulum, which we will soon visit, to send their creations outward into the world beyond the cell wall. You drift among them now, surrounded by creation, tiny symphonies of chemistry writing the story of existence one molecule at a time. And as you drift, you feel something profound. In their endless labor, the ribosomes are peaceful. They never rush, never compete. They simply create, and in their creation, life endures. Creation is never complete without decay. Every living system must balance building with breaking, birth with renewal, life with letting go. In the quiet cell, this sacred duty belongs to the lysosomes. They are small round vesicles, their interiors glowing faintly acidic. Inside them, enzymes wait like gentle alchemists, ready to transform what has been used back into what can be used again. A broken protein, a worn-out organelle, a misfolded enzyme. They are all carried here to be lovingly disassembled. To some, destruction may seem cruel, But in the language of the cell, it is compassion. To destroy is to make room. To dissolve is to prepare for rebirth. The lysosome opens, embraces the old structure, and begins its work. Enzymes dissolve bonds, release molecules, return them to the cytoplasmic sea to be used again. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is truly lost. The cell practices what nature teaches everywhere, that death is never an end, it is transformation. The leaves that fall feed the soil. The stars that die seed new galaxies. And in you, the lysosomes perform the same sacred act, breaking down the old so the new may rise. Sometimes when the cell is too damaged, when repair is no longer possible, the lysosomes release their enzymes completely, a final gesture of surrender. The cell dissolves itself, quietly, peacefully. This process has a name: apoptosis, programmed cell death. It is not tragedy, it is wisdom, because every end creates the beginning of another. And now let us visit the architects and designers of the cell, those who shape, sort, and send. Stretching through the cytoplasm like endless folds of silk lies the endoplasmic reticulum, often called the ER. It comes in two forms, rough and smooth. The rough ER wears tiny ribosomes upon its surface, like stars on a night sky. Here new proteins enter to be folded, shaped, and perfected.
The smooth ER works differently. It creates lipids, hormones, and detoxifies the cell from what could harm it. Together, they are the city's design workshop, turning raw material into elegant function. Inside these folded corridors, proteins glide gently in vesicles, small bubble-like carriers, until they reach the Golgi apparatus, the cell's grand architect. If the endoplasmic reticulum is the workshop, then the Golgi is the postal service, the sculptor, the perfectionist. The Golgi receives every new protein, inspects it carefully, modifies it, sometimes adding sugars, sometimes folding in anew, sometimes wrapping it for travel. Then, with quiet precision, it sends each one on its way. Some to the cell membrane, others to faraway destinations within the body. In this soft, microscopic world, nothing is chaotic. Everything moves with calm intent. The cell builds, cleans, designs, and renews itself every second, every breath, every heartbeat. You are a galaxy of order hiding inside what looks like a single form. Sometimes we think of life as something grand, measured in years, in names, in memories. But here, inside the cell, life reveals its deeper truth. It is the art of balance, of creation and dissolution, of energy and rest, of endless giving and gentle return. Though each cell lives alone, none of them are lonely. They exist like quiet monks in a vast monastery of life, each performing its task, each aware of the others through whispers of chemistry. This is cellular communication, the secret language that holds the body together. One cell releases a signal, perhaps a molecule, perhaps a burst of ions. Another cell listens and answers. When you are wounded, cells near the cut send distress messages. When you are hungry, cells in your stomach speak to your brain. When you feel joy, neurons release patterns that echo through your bloodstream. You are not a single being. You are a quiet nation in constant conversation with itself. Hormones drift through blood like soft-spoken couriers. Neurotransmitters leap across synapses like fireflies in the night. Receptors open, and the body knows what to do. Each heartbeat, each sigh, each tear is the result of perfect communication. And when that harmony falters, we feel it. Confusion, illness, imbalance, they are the echoes of misheard whispers within.
But most of the time, your cells sing together beautifully, keeping you whole, keeping you here.
Every system, every song needs energy to continue. And for the cell, that energy is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the sacred currency of life. We've met its creator, the mitochondria, but let's pause to feel its meaning. ATP is not just fuel, it is permission. It is the yes that allows life to act. When a muscle moves, when a neuron fires, when a memory forms, ATP is spent and then renewed. It is the heartbeat beneath your heartbeat, the breath beneath your breath. Each molecule of ATP lives briefly, used within seconds of being born. And yet, your body creates it endlessly, thousands of times per second inside every cell you possess. If you could see it, you would be dazzled. Billions of microscopic sparks, igniting, dying, and being born again. The constant pulse of life. And yet, there is no noise, no flame, no rush, only balance, only flow. Even at rest, you are radiating invisible energy, not from thought, but from being. Life's truest art is continuation. And here, deep within the cell, that art takes its most graceful form, mitosis. Imagine the nucleus preparing quietly, duplicating its precious DNA, each strand copied perfectly, like two mirrors reflecting the same poem. The cell grows still. Then, slowly, it begins to change. The chromosomes line up, paired like dancers waiting for their cue. Fibers reach out, guiding, pulling, separating. And then, like the gentle opening of a flower, the cell divides. Two arise where once one stood. Each new cell carries the same wisdom, the same story, the same will to live. You are made of countless generations of these quiet divisions. Every second, somewhere within you, this miracle repeats. Life has no beginning and no end, only continuation. And so, as we drift back outward, through the cytoplasm, past the glowing mitochondria, beyond the shimmering membrane, you begin to understand. The cell is not small. It is infinite in its purpose. Each one of your trillions of cells is a world, a memory, a promise. They rise, they work, they renew, never seen, never thanked, but always devoted to the quiet act of keeping you alive. You don't need to understand every detail. You only need to feel the wonder. Because even now, as you listen, as your eyes grow heavy, your cells are still singing. They do not sleep. They do not stop. They are the steady prayer of existence itself. Thank you for joining me tonight on Sleepy Biology. May your dreams be peaceful and yourselves ever bright.